Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to talk all about the Canon Selphy CP1500 specifically, which is what I have. But if you own a CP1300 or are looking to purchase one, there really is no difference between the 1300 and the 1500. It's just that with the 1500 there are a lot less buttons. The interface is just cleaned up a little bit, but between the two, there is really no change. They use the exact same paper, the exact same cartridge, even the plug-in adapter to power the system is the same. So I'm going to go ahead and power it now and turn this on. And if you already own one of these, you can go ahead and skip in the future chapters here about actually how I print and journal with these stickers. But if this is something that you're looking to purchase, then you might be interested to see what actually comes in the photo pack. So this is a brand new box here. It comes with 108 sheets and the ink cartridges. So the sheets aren't, they're kind of bundled to what can fit in the dispenser. But you'll have 3 cartridges. And 3 cartridges is pretty much about 2 of these photo paper sheets. It will tell you on the actual printer when it's time to refill sheets or refill a cartridge. But I just wanted to show you exactly what you get in a brand new box. So I'm going to go ahead and put this away now. But here is an example of a cartridge as well. It is a ink technology printer and it goes in 4 passes. So you've got your primary colors that make up the layers of these photos, and it's going to print, I believe, red, yellow, and then blue, of course, for primary. And then the last layer is the finish, whether you select glossy, semi-gloss, or I think it's satin, what they call it on the Canon app. So that is for the photo paper and the cartridge. As far as the actual printer itself, you have the body of your printer, the main printer, and then it comes with a little flip here. Let me show this way. Here is the door for where you insert. You can put a micro SD or an SSD card to print your photos from, and you would navigate those photos through the window. Here is where you feed the paper tray for the photo paper. I will not be using an SD card. I'll be printing from my phone, which is usually how others use this device as well. So here is the paper tray. It says open on this side. You're going to flip this open. If you needed to refill, this is where you would open it again, and you would open it here and refill your paper this way. Now, nowhere in the actual instructions does it tell you how to fill this paper in. I had to find out the hard way that you need to fill it glossy side up. I think the first time I did it was brand side up, and I thought it was going to feed like an inkjet printer where it like curves the paper in like that. Well, it doesn't. What actually happens is one sheet of paper, once this is fed into the slot, you're going to hear a nice click, and that's how you know it's in there. Well, okay. Of course, it's not going to do it right this time. It'll click on both sides, so you have to make sure you go in at the right angle. So it's in now. And how this actually feeds is, so your paper sitting here, it's actually going to come out all the way through and out the backside. That's something I didn't know until I was printing it for the first time. If you have this up against a wall or books or anything is behind this, it can get jammed and stuck because there's other things like in the way. So I actually feed this either like up and around, or I just honestly lay it on top sometimes. And for the purposes of this video, I'm actually going to have this laid on top as well so that the glare doesn't bounce off the light and bother you for this video. But the paper will actually feed through, exit the back, and then come through all the way to the front and all the way to the back again 4 times because of the 4 different layers. So I think it's really important to note that you need ample space behind the printer. I actually print my photos with the machine sideways like this, and just like this on my desk, print everything, unplug it, remove it from my desk, and then I do my journal session. So I'm going to do pretty much a walkthrough of the apps I use for my photos, how I edit my photos and put together collages. I really don't like the Selphy app to make my collages. I use a separate app, and I will show you all of that in this video. So let me just go ahead and set this back up again. I'm going to take these out of view. So I'm going to be printing everything off of my phone. Here is a spare phone that I have, and I use the app called MOLDIV, and this is what it looks like right now. It's got a Santa logo, but when it's not holiday time, it's literally just a rainbow lens circle, and the app is in all caps. So I'm going to open up MOLDIV, and it is a free app. You do not need to pay at all, but you might think you need to. All you have to do is press continue to app here. Ignore any pop-up for any payment. There is an X at the top, and after that screen, everything is free to use. So I get into collage. Now, there's a lot of different layouts here. As you can see, 312. There are a few that I like to use and highlight, and I actually have it on a cheat sheet for myself, if I can find it. Right here. So this is my 𝘍𝘪𝘠𝘬 A6 pencil board, and I have a cheat sheet here of some of the layouts. Now, when you look at the app, this square is in a 1:1 ratio, which is a perfect square. But you can go ahead and click anywhere, any layout. Let's just do this simple 4:4, and we are going to do frame adjust. I might have to unplug the charger for now to get closer for you guys. So you're going to click frame adjust down here, and right here you'll see this 1:1 ratio. Well, you can toggle and slide this for whatever ratio photo you need. Now we need to use 2:3, which is also a 4:6. I know, who knew you needed to understand math for this journaling part of our hobby. So anyways, a 2:3, which is also a 4:6. Down here is the border. You can have as wide or as little or no border if you'd like. I pretty much print always with no border. Then you're just going to click anywhere here. It says tap here, and you will choose album, and you can pick from your recent photos. I've already set up an album for us, and I called it Selfie, and it's just a bunch of coffee photos. So here is where you'll select your photos. So let's just go ahead and pick, and as you select, it pops into the bottom here, so you can see which location. And this is important if you're using maybe a layout that isn't exactly equal in proportion to every photo. You could do small photos on top, larger photos on the bottom, and I'll show an example of that. But in this case, every photo is going to be the same size, so it doesn't really matter where they go. And then we're going to load them up, and you can rotate each one, zoom in, edit, whatever you need to do to get it the way you want it to look. So here you can go back into the album if you want to replace it. You can hit camera if you're going to take a live photo, filter if you want to add any filters or enhancements to it. And then you can go to rotate, switch if you want to like switch the location of photos you've already selected, and then delete. So let's go to rotate. Here you can rotate it manually. You can do it by 90 degrees. You can also flip the photo. So maybe you took a photo and there's text on it, and for whatever reason it's backwards. You can just flip it horizontally or flip something vertically if you need to. And then if you need to reset the photo because you tweaked it the wrong way a little bit, you can just hit reset there. You can zoom out, zoom in, and you just hit the check mark when you've got it exactly where you want it to be. So all these photos are where I want it. I'm not going to print this set out. I'm actually going to go back here and show you an example of a layout you might want if you want something that has different sizes. So Here I picked a layout that's got 2 bigger boxes on the side and 3 smaller ones. You want to pay attention to which ones you're choosing, because I could, this one is pretty much the same. It's 2 on top but 3 on the bottom, but because of the 2x3 layout, it's gonna stretch it out vertically. So you just have to play with it sometimes, because once we get into some of these layouts, like that's a really thin, skinny photo. Sometimes I only have 5 or so photos to print, and here we can see, let me just delete this one so you can see the grid space, but it's a square here, square photo, and then 2 rectangular photos. And what that actually looks like is right here. We're gonna have almost, yeah, this one is a square image and then a vertical image. So that's pretty much what you would see there. 1, 2, and then 3 squares. So just an example there of how you can mix and match the layout. Now the most common layout I use is this one right here. It is 8 photos total, and they are all the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into album. What's great here is if you're printing multiple photo collages, you can just go down and clear out everything that you have and then select your 8 photos. So I'll go back to my album and I'm going to select all 8 of these coffee photos. A fun little trick is if maybe you want a specific photo to be bigger, or you want this layout but you don't need all 8, what you can do is frame adjust, and you'll see these orange dots here of where you can make a certain photo bigger. It's not perfect 100% of the time. For example, if I want this bottom section, I can make it bigger, but I'm going to make the opposite side also bigger, and I'm losing those 2 photos. But there isn't this exact layout among the choices, so it's nice that you can kind of finagle it a bit once you get used to the layouts and how you want to print. There's so much ways you can customize this. So I am going to put it back. And this is usually how I print. I'm going to go ahead and rotate everything the way I want it now. One thing that I have learned is that on the Canon paper, there are serrated edges at the top and bottom. Sometimes the print will bleed over that edge. And when I mean bleed, I don't mean the ink is bleeding. I mean that the photo is kind of going over that layer that you're going to cut off. So I pay attention to the photos that are at the top and at the bottom. If there is, for example, a person's face there that you don't want to cut off, I recommend placing the faces towards the inner line and towards the inner photos, because if it gets too close to the edge here, you might risk the photo getting cut off. And I'll kind of show that as an example. I already rotated that one. This one I just need to lift up. Maybe I can do this vertical as well. A lot of photos nowadays, I feel like with the orientation of our cell phones, a lot of photos are taken vertically. But this is just an example for you guys. I don't actually need these photos printed. But I'm going to save this now at the maximum quality. Now this goes straight to my photo album. I'm just going to go out into another app now and go to Selphy. Selphy is the Canon app to print on the printer. I'm going to select photos. Actually, my paper size is already selected up here as postcard, and it will remember your last setting. So if you ever need to change that, it's at the top. I'm going to click photos and select the collage that we just made and saved. And this is a new update of the Selphy app, and what I liked before is that the fit of it was a lot better before. So you're gonna highlight the photo. If you select the settings here, it just goes back to the border and the finish. If you want to add a white border, borderless, that's all on the little cog wheel symbol. I like to choose glossy over all the finishes. But if you need to actually do anything to the photo, you're going to highlight the photo. It's highlighted now in orange. I'm going to click rotate and I'm going to click fit, and it just brings the border to the very edge here, but you can kind of see that there is an overhang of the actual photo at the top and the bottom. What I like to do, and this is the annoying part, is I like to pinch and get the top and bottom in the frame as possible. The problem is with any slight movement, it turns and kind of messes with the angle of the photo. So sometimes it's a little diagonal, but you'll see here, I'm trying to get it to fit vertically, and it's fine if I have a white edge here. I would rather fit every single photo and have extra white edge than to fill it, overfill it, and then cut off a photo, if that makes sense. So I don't know why it does this when I use it with the MOLDIV app and the Selphy app. The MOLDIV, it should be a perfect 4:6 ratio or the 2:3 setting, because when you're printing, it's also a 4:6. So I don't know what the discrepancy is there, but that's something to note, and which is why I said pay attention to where faces are, because it could get cut off. And if you forget this step by pressing fit, you are definitely for sure going to be cutting off some of the photo collage that you had made. So this is a very, very important and crucial step if you're going to use the MOLDIV app to make your photo collages and then print them off the Selphy app. Now, if you're already familiar with the Selphy app, you might be saying, Jasmine, why are you doing all that hard work when Selphy already has a collage setting? And yes, they do. It's just very, very limiting. So you can make a collage within the app yourself. It says collage here. And if you select 2 photos, it'll be 2 giant photos. If you select 4 photos, it'll be 4 on one page, which is basically a 2:3. Or you can select up to 8 and it'll pretty much fill up just like the collage we made. You can't, but it will always, I think, always be bordered. I'm not sure because I honestly don't use the collage feature in the Selphy app itself. I personally just like the freedom of using the MOLDIV app and then coming on to Selphy and printing it as if it was one giant photo. Like Selphy sees this as one giant photo, but to us it is a photo collage. So that is how I've been using it. This is how I'm going to print it. So I'm just going to make sure that I go back to the fill and we'll print this now. I'm going to leave the print here at full speed so you can see how long it actually takes, which isn't long at all, really. Again, make sure the back of this is clear because you're going to see that it does come out all the way. So like I said, this is a 4-pass technology. And I guess the first pass is yellow. Second pass adds a red layer. And I guess I never really could tell, but the last pass is blue, but because of all the layers, you now get your full color. And then the last pass here is the finish, whether you select glossy, semi-glossy, or satin. Personally, because of the texture and the feel, and even with the look of it, I prefer glossy. I've tried semi-glossy and satin, and you can almost see the texture of it. Like you'll see like almost little pinpoints on top of how it makes it satin or semi-glossy. So here are the photos. I didn't do any editing to these photos. I didn't have to fix any saturation or contrast, and that is One of the biggest reasons I love the Canon 1500, I owned the Canon 𝘕𝑉 before, and man, with that being a heatless, heat technology, inkless printing system, the colors were just way off. They were very grayscale a lot of the time, and I had to edit and oversaturate so many of my photos just to get them to remotely look like what they're supposed to be. I do a lot of printing that includes people, so skin tone is really important in order for the photo to come off correctly. And with the 𝘕𝑉, I always felt like it could never capture true skin tone colors. So that's why it was important for me to upgrade to an ink photo printer. And this is called sublimation for it to have the 4 passes. And the Canon Selphy technically isn't portable with this setup. However, they do sell separately the battery pack that goes for the Canon Selphy. So let me show you the back of it. There is a spot here that you can open, and it does actually use a external battery. So you would insert the battery here, plug this in, and that's how the battery would charge. And then you could remove the power source, the plug-in power source, and it would be powered by the battery. And you could technically travel with it. Now you'd be traveling with this big chunky box, but it is possible, it is doable. Just make sure you're bringing extra photo paper and a cartridge with you. And I mean, pretty much the only thing you're doing away with is this. I feel like if you were going to travel and be at a hotel with power, you might as well just bring this. You might end up needing to bring this anyways to recharge the battery. So I don't know how portable of a solution this actually is for those looking for a printer to bring with them. So let's get into the journal portion now. I'm going to show you how I journal with my photos, some of the tools that I use, and let me just get set up here. If you are new to my channel, I use photos in my journals a lot. It has exponentially increased in this year that I have used the Canon Selphy, and I just really cannot imagine journaling any other way now. So here's just a few examples if you're new to my channel to see how I've used my photo journal. I've made a pregnancy journal for my 3rd child and just filled it up with photos every week. I have an everyday memory keeper journal, which is this very chunky 𝘍𝘪𝘯𝘰, and it is of photos every single day. It's supposed to be 1 photo a day, but as you can see, I definitely couldn't hold back if there was something interesting going on. I use it in some journal spreads about stationery specifically. So here is my journal anytime I meet stationery friends. I post pictures. I put up pictures of my journal friends and any coffee tables that we're at, because we definitely sprawl all of our journal tools and things all over the table. So these are just really fun ways that I've used photos in my journals. If you have children and are interested in starting a memory keeper, I have a whole video on starting a memory keeper for your kids and what you could possibly include. But here is my son's, and this was the reason that I wanted to purchase a photo printer. So these first ones here, I think almost everything in here is using the Canon 𝘕𝑉. So I had to really bump up the saturation of these photos. You can see, I think, pretty clearly here that it almost looks like there's a gray film over the photo, or just like almost like a gray filter. I had to really oversaturate these photos just to remotely get a skin color tone to these photos. And now here is the Canon Selphy, and I did not need to do it nearly as much. And I feel like the gloss is just a lot better from the Selphy than with the 𝘕𝑉. Some of you might not be able to notice a difference. If so, then you can go ahead and choose any printer that you like. But so far, with the year that I had with the Ivy and then this full year that I've had with the Selphy, I would hands down choose the Selphy. They are almost very nearly the same price, but you get so much more with the ink but you get so much more with the ink sublimation printing versus the heat inkless technology. So before I get to actively journaling with these photos, I want to show my 𝘍𝘪𝘯𝘵. This has handled so many photos really, really well. Props to 𝘍𝘪𝘯𝘵 for being able to create a binding that is so strong. Now, all these photos in the beginning are with the standard Canon photo printer or photo paper. It wasn't until about Thanksgiving, towards the end here, that I learned a really great tip and trick from my friend Emily, who also saw it from another person. I've also had someone else give me this hint. I really just want to give credit to anybody that already does this. But basically, you're going to take your photo sheet here. Now, you could cut this up and then do this tip individually, but that's way more tedious. What you're going to do is basically take off this logo sheet on the back, and it's going to create a photo piece that is half as thin. Now, this is great if you're going to use photos a lot like I do, and it will minimize the amount of bulk and chunk. So what you do here is you just take your nail or sharp edge. Hopefully this will stay in focus for us. And you are going to try and separate the backing. Now, it's actually pretty easy to do given that the front and the back of this are pretty stiff and hard. You just need to get in between this layer, and then it starts to kind of feather out here. I don't know if it's going to be able to show, but once you've got a good grip, all right, there we go. We've got a good enough lip there to grab. I like to set this out on a flat surface so that I don't risk wrinkling the front page, because it can wrinkle and it can ruin the look of the photo. So what I do is I'm going to set it down here. I'm going to hold the front piece, and I'm just basically going to peel back the back side, the logo. Now I'll do it closer here because I don't actually care for these photos, but you can see here that you now have the raw paper texture in the middle. So this is the backing, which has a layer of plastic, and then you have the front, which has the coating, also another layer of probably plastic. So here we are separating. And we've just created a thinner profile of these photos. And as you can see, they are still perfectly good as new. It's just a lot thinner. Now the paper will curl because we've removed some of the structure of it, which is this backing. The only caveat to this is you must use a glue stick to stick this into your journal because of the raw paper. If you try to use glue tape adhesive, it will just roll back into your glue tape because it's pulling the raw paper with it. So unfortunately, that means you're going to be a glue girl. Now this is the serrated edge that I was talking about. This is always there for you to be able to handle the photo and just to make sure that it's getting the full ratio. But somehow with the MOLDIV app, it goes over the cut lines. If you do it with the Selphy app, it's pretty close to perfect, but it can overprint if your paper in the cartridge is shifted a certain way. It can also go over the cut line, but this is the serrated edge. And this is why I was saying you kind of have to be mindful. If you have a person's face close to this top edge, it could cut them off. Like it's already cut off a little bit of my arm there. So as long as you give yourself a good margin around any special focal points of your photo, you should be okay. So here are my 8 photos, and this is why I said you should peel the back off before you cut, because if you cut your 8 photos, you've got to peel 8 times now instead of 1. So I have been doing this method of peeling the backing for the last 2 months of my journal. And since it's not, it's only 2 months out of the 12, it's been great for my journal. I think it's helped to kind of decrease any major chunk in the back, because this thing is already really chunky. I'm really excited to see how it goes next year with doing the entire year with this thinner method. That way it's a lot more manageable, since I am going to jump up to an A5 notebook planner, and this is an A6 planner. So this has really helped. I'm sure this would help really well for my children's journals as well, since these are in A5 book-bound journals, and this book-bound paper is 160 GSM. So this paper is already really, really thick. To be adding a photo page that is just as thick, this is really going to deform and misshapen. But if I can kind of do whatever I can to help not bulk up the pages too much, then I will be thinning out the photos, and I think it will help in the long run. And also just help with the integrity of the spine, so that these journals can be memory keepers, what I intend them to be, for a very, very long time. So if I were to actually journal with these photos, I would honestly just continue on and cut them out using glue. So I like to use the 𝘐𝘯𝘗 glue stick, GLOO. This is the regular size. There is a monster, huge size one. There is a blue. This is blue and dries clear, but there's a clear one as well. And I haven't really noticed a difference except the smell. I don't know if there's any difference in chemical makeup other than the color. The blue just helps for you to see where you're putting glue down, but then it dries clear. I found that if I kept the backing on, if I was using a photo with the backing, glue would not stick to the paper well with this plastic backing. You could actually easily rip the picture off of the page once the glue dried. So if you intend to continue to use the backing and keep the photo paper as is, I would recommend a glue tape. So that would be the pairing. And if you are doing the raw paper backing to make the photo thinner, then I recommend a glue pairing. So this is where tools is really important, and how you're applying your photos to your journals. So I hope this kind of gives a good demonstration. If you're doing it with the Canon plastic logo, you need a glue adhesive. If you're using it with the raw paper thinned out method, then you need a glue stick. The adhesive that I like to use is AdTech. Now, the outside of this case says removable tape, but I've used both kinds. This is a refillable one, which I love. I've had this yellow, casing for 2 years now, and I've really only ever had to purchase the refills. There is a refill for permanent tape and removable tape. If you are someone that makes a lot of mistakes, then I really recommend the removable tape, because you can really easily pick the picture or paper, whatever you are pasting down, up easily. If you're using the permanent, once you stick it to the paper, it's pretty much going to rip the paper if you try to remove it. And I know that because of experience. I have tried to lift up a lot of pieces before, and it always rips the paper, which is why I like to have on hand both kinds, the removable and the permanent adhesive. It just depends what I'm journaling. And then, like I said, the glue stick. The scissors that I use is this crane scissors, just a generic one from Amazon. I really like the blades of this. I didn't anticipate on doing a cutting tip, but what I like to do is actually line up the top part of the scissor along the line of the photo here. So the part that's touching the photo is actually the top blade, and the bottom blade is open and separated away. And this is how I ensure that I am cutting straight along the edge of the photo. Because if you do it this way, where it's just like floating in between both blades, you run the risk of kind of cutting crooked or diverting a little bit. So what I like to do is actually rest this top blade along the surface of the photo, and this is how I get a nice straight cut. Now I do have a paper cutter. I have the slide version. This is what I have, super cheap on Amazon. The only issue with this is you need pressure to push down here and cut through. Now I've found that sometimes I put a little too much pressure and it actually scratches the layers of my photo, and I have done that before. If you have one of those paper cutters that is like a guillotine one where it drops down onto the photo paper, I don't think you're going to run any risk of scratching the filming here. But if you have one like mine, I would just recommend to not push down so hard with all your might, because the paper is already very thin. You just need enough pressure to hold the photo down and just glide it across. And there you have it. Now here you can see, because of the raw paper, it is a little fuzzy. I only get this fuzziness if I'm cutting after already peeling, so that's why I prefer using scissors. Well, I hope this video was informative. I guess I'm not actually going to have any journaling part of this video because I don't actually need these photos to go anywhere in my journals. They were just a demonstration for you, but I hope this was informative. I hope I answered any questions that anyone might think of, but if you still have a question, please do leave it in the comments. I recommend the Selphy CP1500 so much, so I recommend it. It is probably the best tool accessory in my collection that has really elevated my journaling pages and my memory keeping game, if you will. So I definitely recommend it. If you are looking for a place to purchase it, I do have an Amazon affiliate link in the bottom. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me to receive some commission from Amazon to show them that I steered you towards that product. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you all had a great new year, and I'm so excited to be creating more content for you guys in 2025. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.